Question 1. The evaluation methodology shows that a sales representative is presenting an IBM traditional workload solution to a client who operates in a highly regulated industry. The representative is aware that a specific feature of the proposed solution, while not explicitly prohibited, may not fully meet a nuanced interpretation of a key compliance requirement that is critical for the client's ongoing operations. The client has not specifically asked about this particular interpretation. What is the most ethically and professionally sound course of action for the sales representative? Option A. Proceed with the sale, assuming the client's existing interpretation of the regulation is sufficient and that they will address any future compliance concerns independently. Option B. Downplay the importance of the specific compliance nuance, assuring the client that the solution is generally compliant and that such detailed interpretations are rarely enforced. Option C. Proactively disclose the potential compliance nuance to the client, explain the implications, and discuss potential workarounds or alternative configurations to ensure full compliance. Option D. Advise the client to consult with their own legal counsel regarding the specific compliance nuance without acknowledging the potential issue with the proposed solution. The correct answer is C. Proactively disclose the potential compliance nuance to the client, explain the implications, and discuss potential workarounds or alternative configurations to ensure full compliance. Explanation. This scenario presents a common ethical dilemma in sales, particularly within the context of regulated industries like IT solutions. The challenge lies in balancing the immediate pressure to close a deal with the long-term responsibility of providing accurate and compliant information. The sales representative is aware of a potential limitation in the proposed IBM solution that could impact the client's compliance with specific industry regulations. The core of the dilemma is whether to disclose this information upfront, potentially jeopardizing the sale, or to withhold it, risking future repercussions for both the client and the representative's company. The correct approach prioritizes transparency and client trust, aligning with ethical sales practices and the spirit of regulatory compliance. By proactively disclosing the potential compliance gap and offering solutions or workarounds, the sales representative demonstrates integrity and a commitment to the client's success, even if it means a more complex or delayed sale. This approach fosters a strong, long-term relationship built on honesty and adherence to the regulatory framework relevant to the client's industry, which is implicitly understood to be governed by the same regulatory environment as the exam's jurisdiction. This aligns with the principles of responsible business conduct and the expectation that sales professionals act in the best interest of their clients, especially when regulatory adherence is a factor. An incorrect approach would involve downplaying or omitting the compliance concern. This is ethically unsound because it misleads the client and potentially exposes them to regulatory penalties. From a regulatory perspective, knowingly selling a solution that does not meet a client's compliance requirements or failing to disclose information that would prevent such a failure can lead to severe consequences, including fines, reputational damage, and legal action for both the client and the vendor. Another incorrect approach might be to suggest the client seek external advice without providing any internal guidance or acknowledging the issue, which can be perceived as evasive and unhelpful, failing to uphold the duty of care expected from a trusted advisor. The professional decision-making process in such situations should involve a clear understanding of the client's regulatory obligations, a thorough knowledge of the product's capabilities and limitations concerning those obligations, and a commitment to open communication. When faced with a potential compliance issue, the professional should 1. Identify the specific regulatory requirement at risk. 2. Assess the impact of the product's limitation on meeting that requirement. 3. Consult internal subject matter experts or legal counsel if necessary. 4. Communicate the findings transparently to the client, outlining the risks and potential mitigation strategies. 5. Document all communications and decisions. This structured approach ensures that decisions are informed, ethical, and compliant. Question 2. Process analysis reveals that a client is expressing significant interest in an IBM traditional workload solution, but their primary requirement for a specific advanced feature is currently in development and not yet released. The sales representative knows this feature is critical for the client's immediate operational needs and that its release is at least 6 months away, with no firm delivery date. The client is pressing for a commitment on when this feature will be available to ensure the solution meets their project timeline. What is the most ethical and professionally responsible course of action for the sales representative? Option A. Clearly explain that the required feature is currently under development and not available in the current release, providing an estimated timeline for its future availability, and discussing potential interim solutions or workarounds. Option B. Assure the client that the feature will be available very soon and that it will meet their project timeline, without providing specific dates or details about the development status. Option C. Advise the client to look at competitor solutions that may already offer the required feature, even if the IBM solution is otherwise a better fit for their overall needs. Option D. Exaggerate the capabilities of the current workload solution, implying that it can perform the required function adequately even without the specific feature, to secure the sale. The correct answer is A. Clearly explain that the required feature is currently under development and not available in the current release, providing an estimated timeline for its future availability, and discussing potential interim solutions or workarounds. Explanation. Scenario analysis. This scenario presents a common ethical dilemma in sales where a salesperson might be tempted to misrepresent a product's capabilities to secure a deal, especially when facing pressure to meet targets. The challenge lies in balancing the immediate business objective of closing a sale with the long-term ethical and regulatory obligations to provide accurate information. Misleading a client can lead to significant reputational damage, loss of trust, and potential legal repercussions, all of which are detrimental to both the individual and the company. Correct approach analysis. The correct approach, which involves clearly stating the limitations of the current offering and proposing a future solution with a realistic timeline, represents best professional practice. This aligns with the principles of honesty, transparency, and integrity, which are foundational to ethical business conduct and are often implicitly or explicitly required by regulatory frameworks governing sales and client interactions. Specifically, in the context of IBM's traditional workloads and the C1000-016 exam, this approach upholds the expectation that sales professionals will act in the best interest of the client by providing accurate information about product capabilities and roadmaps. It avoids making unsubstantiated claims and instead focuses on managing client expectations effectively. This builds trust and fosters a sustainable client relationship, which is crucial for long-term success. Incorrect approach is analysis. One incorrect approach involves exaggerating the current capabilities of the workload solution to meet the client's immediate needs, even if the full functionality is not yet available. This constitutes a misrepresentation of facts, which is ethically unsound and can violate consumer protection laws and industry-specific regulations that mandate truthful advertising and sales practices. Such an action erodes client trust and can lead to contractual disputes and financial penalties. Another incorrect approach is to remain silent about the known limitations and the delayed availability of the required features, allowing the client to proceed under the assumption that the current offering fully meets their needs. This omission of critical information is a form of deception. Ethically, it breaches the duty of care owed to the client. From a regulatory standpoint, it can be considered a failure to disclose material facts, which can have legal consequences. A third incorrect approach is to promise that the features will be available very soon without a concrete timeline or commitment from the development team. This is a vague and potentially misleading statement that creates false expectations. It lacks the specificity required for informed decision-making by the client and can be viewed as an attempt to circumvent the truth without outright lying, which is still an unethical sales tactic. Professional reasoning. Professionals should adopt a decision-making framework that prioritizes ethical conduct and regulatory compliance. This involves 1. Understanding the client's true needs and the product's actual capabilities. 2. Identifying any gaps between the two. 3. Communicating these gaps transparently to the client, along with realistic solutions and timelines. 4. Documenting all discussions and commitments. 5. Seeking guidance from legal or compliance departments if unsure about disclosure requirements or potential misrepresentations. This proactive and transparent approach ensures that sales are based on informed consent and mutual understanding, thereby safeguarding both the client's interests and the professional's integrity. Question 3. The risk matrix shows a high probability of client dissatisfaction and potential regulatory investigation if sales representatives misrepresent the capabilities of IBM's traditional workloads. You are a sales representative facing significant pressure to meet your quarterly targets. A potential client is inquiring about migrating a critical application to a modernized environment, but expresses concerns about the compatibility and performance of certain legacy components within the proposed solution. You know that while the traditional workloads can technically run, they may not offer the optimal performance or scalability the client is implicitly seeking for this critical application. What is the most ethical and professionally responsible course of action? Option A. Focus solely on the contractual obligations and technical specifications that confirm the traditional workloads can technically run the application, and avoid discussing potential performance or scalability challenges. Option B. Clearly articulate the current limitations of the traditional workloads regarding performance and scalability for this specific critical application, and propose alternative solutions or phased migration strategies that address these concerns, even if it means a longer sales cycle or a smaller initial deal. Option C. Suggest that the client's IT team can likely develop custom workarounds for any performance or scalability issues that may arise with the traditional workloads, without offering direct IBM support for these workarounds. Option D. Emphasize the cost savings and immediate availability of the traditional workloads, downplaying the client's concerns about performance and scalability, and assuring them that the system will function adequately for their needs. The correct answer is B. Clearly articulate the current limitations of the traditional workloads regarding performance and scalability for this specific critical application, and propose alternative solutions or phased migration strategies that address these concerns, even if it means a longer sales cycle or a smaller initial deal. Explanation. Scenario analysis. This scenario presents a classic ethical dilemma where a sales representative is pressured to meet aggressive targets, potentially leading to misrepresentation of product capabilities. The challenge lies in balancing the company's sales objectives with the ethical obligation to provide accurate information to clients. The risk matrix highlights the potential for reputational damage and regulatory scrutiny if sales practices are not aligned with ethical standards and IBM's own guidelines. The pressure to close deals can cloud judgment, making it difficult to discern between aggressive but acceptable sales tactics and unethical ones. Correct approach analysis. The correct approach involves prioritizing honesty and transparency. This aligns with IBM's commitment to ethical business conduct and the principles of responsible selling. Specifically, it adheres to guidelines that prohibit misleading statements about product features, performance, or compatibility. By clearly communicating the limitations of the traditional workloads and offering solutions that genuinely meet the client's needs, the sales representative upholds professional integrity and builds long-term trust. This approach also mitigates regulatory risks associated with deceptive sales practices. Incorrect approaches analysis. One incorrect approach involves exaggerating the capabilities of traditional workload to meet immediate sales targets. This is ethically unsound as it constitutes misrepresentation. From a regulatory perspective, such actions could violate consumer protection laws and industry-specific regulations that prohibit deceptive advertising and sales practices. It also breaches IBM's internal code of conduct, which mandates truthful representation of products and services. Another incorrect approach is to downplay the client's concerns about the limitations of traditional workloads and push for a sale regardless. This demonstrates a lack of empathy and a disregard for the client's best interests. Ethically, it is a failure to act in good faith. Legally, it could lead to breach of contract claims if the client experiences significant issues due to unaddressed limitations. It also undermines the principle of providing solutions that are a good fit for the customer's environment. A third incorrect approach is to suggest that the client can figure out workarounds for the limitations without providing concrete support or acknowledging the potential impact. This is a form of negligence and can be seen as an attempt to avoid responsibility. Ethically, it is irresponsible and can lead to client dissatisfaction and damage to IBM's reputation. It also fails to uphold the spirit of partnership and customer support expected in professional sales engagements. Professional reasoning. Professionals should adopt a decision-making framework that prioritizes ethical conduct and regulatory compliance above short-term gains. This involves 1. Understanding and internalizing IBM's ethical guidelines and sales policies. 2. Actively listening to and understanding client needs and concerns. 3. providing accurate and transparent information about product capabilities and limitations. 4. Seeking clarification or guidance from management or legal counsel when faced with ambiguous situations or pressure to compromise ethical standards. 5. Focusing on building long-term client relationships based on trust and mutual benefit, rather than solely on transaction volume. Question 4. Benchmark analysis indicates that sales representatives are experiencing increased pressure to meet aggressive quarterly targets for IBM traditional workload solutions. A potential client has inquired about specific performance enhancements that are not yet fully documented or proven in the current release. The sales representative is aware that exaggerating these potential enhancements could lead to a quick sale, but also recognizes that this would be a misrepresentation. What is the most ethically sound and professionally responsible course of action for the sales representative? Option A. Inform the client that the requested enhancements are standard features and that any perceived limitations are due to the client's current infrastructure. Option B. Emphasize the potential for significant performance improvements, hinting that the enhancements are imminent and will far exceed current benchmarks to secure the deal. Option C. Politely decline to make any specific claims about unproven enhancements, offer to provide all available documentation on current capabilities, and suggest involving IBM technical specialists to discuss the client's specific needs and potential future roadmap. Option D. Avoid direct engagement with the client on the specific enhancement query, hoping they will proceed with the purchase based on other aspects of the solution. The correct answer is C. Politely decline to make any specific claims about unproven enhancements, offer to provide all available documentation on current capabilities, and suggest involving IBM technical specialists to discuss the client's specific needs and potential future roadmap. Explanation. Scenario analysis. This scenario presents a classic ethical dilemma in sales, where a salesperson is pressured to meet aggressive targets by potentially misrepresenting a product's capabilities. The challenge lies in balancing the need to achieve sales goals with the fundamental ethical obligation to provide accurate information to clients. The salesperson must navigate the internal pressure from management against the external duty of honesty and integrity towards the customer. This situation is professionally challenging because it tests the salesperson's moral compass and their understanding of their responsibilities beyond just closing a deal. Correct approach analysis. The correct approach involves prioritizing honesty and transparency. This aligns with fundamental ethical principles of business conduct, and in the context of IBM sales practices and general business ethics, emphasizes building long-term customer trust. By refusing to make unsubstantiated claims and instead offering to provide factual documentation and engage technical experts, the salesperson upholds integrity. This approach respects the client's right to make informed decisions based on accurate information, which is crucial for a sustainable business relationship, and avoids potential legal or reputational damage for both the client and IBM. Incorrect approaches analysis. One incorrect approach involves succumbing to the pressure and exaggerating the capabilities of the IBM traditional workload solutions. This is ethically unacceptable, as it constitutes misrepresentation and deception. It violates the principle of honesty and can lead to significant client dissatisfaction, loss of trust, and potential legal repercussions for breach of contract or misrepresentation. From a regulatory and ethical standpoint, it undermines the integrity of the sales process and the reputation of IBM. Another incorrect approach is to avoid the situation altogether by not engaging with the client or by providing vague, non-committal answers. While this might seem like a way to avoid making false claims, it is still professionally deficient. It fails to address the client's legitimate inquiry and can be perceived as evasiveness or a lack of confidence in the product. This approach does not uphold the duty of professional engagement and can damage the client relationship by not providing the necessary support and information. A third incorrect approach might be to shift the blame or responsibility entirely onto the client for not understanding the product. This is unprofessional and unethical. The salesperson has a responsibility to clearly communicate product features and benefits. Blaming the client for a lack of understanding, especially when the salesperson has been pressured to misrepresent, is a failure of professional duty and an attempt to deflect accountability for unethical behavior. Professional reasoning. Professionals should approach such situations by first recognizing the ethical conflict. They should then consult internal company policies and ethical guidelines, which in IBM's context would emphasize integrity and customer trust. The decision-making process should involve 1. Identifying the core ethical obligation honesty. 2. Assessing the potential consequences of different actions, client dissatisfaction, legal issues, reputational damage vs. meeting targets. 3. Seeking clarification or support from management or compliance departments if internal pressure is a factor. 4. Communicating truthfully and professionally with the client, offering verifiable information and solutions. This structured approach ensures that decisions are not made impulsively under pressure, but are grounded in ethical principles and professional responsibility. Question 5. Strategic planning requires a deep understanding of a client's existing operational inefficiencies before proposing technology solutions. When a client expresses a desire to optimize their processes using IBM traditional workloads, what is the most effective initial approach for a sales professional? Option A. Focus on demonstrating how IBM traditional workloads can automate tasks, without first understanding which tasks are most critical or inefficient for the client. Option B. Conduct a thorough discovery session to identify specific pain points, current workflow bottlenecks, and desired business outcomes, then map these to relevant IBM traditional workload capabilities. Option C. Recommend a complete replacement of the client's current infrastructure with the most advanced IBM traditional workloads available, assuming this will inherently optimize their processes. Option D. Immediately present a comprehensive overview of the latest IBM traditional workload features and their general benefits for process improvement. The correct answer is B. Conduct a thorough discovery session to identify specific pain points, current workflow bottlenecks, and desired business outcomes, then map these to relevant IBM traditional workload capabilities. Explanation. This scenario presents a common challenge in IT sales where a client expresses a desire for process optimization without a clear understanding of the underlying business drivers or the specific IBM traditional workloads that could facilitate such improvements. The professional challenge lies in translating a vague business need into a concrete, actionable solution that aligns with the client's strategic objectives and IBM's offerings, while adhering to ethical sales practices and regulatory guidelines. It requires a consultative approach rather than a product-pushing one. The correct approach represents best professional practice because it prioritizes understanding the client's business context and pain points before proposing solutions. This aligns with ethical sales principles that emphasize customer centricity and value delivery. By focusing on identifying specific inefficiencies and then mapping them to relevant IBM traditional workloads, the sales professional demonstrates a commitment to solving the client's problems, not just selling products. This consultative methodology builds trust and ensures that any proposed solution is tailored and likely to yield tangible benefits, thereby fulfilling the implicit promise of optimization. This approach also implicitly adheres to any relevant sales conduct regulations that mandate fair dealing and accurate representation of product capabilities in relation to client needs. An incorrect approach that focuses solely on showcasing the latest IBM traditional workload features without understanding the client's current processes or desired outcomes is professionally unacceptable. This is because it risks proposing solutions that are irrelevant, overly complex, or fail to address the actual business problem, leading to client dissatisfaction and potential financial waste. Ethically, it can be seen as a misrepresentation of value, as the optimization promised is not grounded in the client's specific context. From a regulatory perspective, if such a misrepresentation leads to a sale based on false pretenses, it could violate consumer protection laws or industry-specific sales conduct regulations that require transparency and a genuine effort to meet customer needs. Another incorrect approach, which involves immediately recommending a complete overhaul of the client's existing infrastructure without a thorough assessment, is also professionally flawed. This demonstrates a lack of due diligence and a potentially disruptive, high-risk strategy. It fails to acknowledge the client's current investment and operational realities. Ethically, it can be perceived as an aggressive sales tactic that prioritizes a large sale over the client's stability and operational continuity. Regulatory concerns might arise if this approach leads to significant client disruption or financial loss without adequate risk disclosure and client consent, potentially contravening guidelines on responsible business practices. The professional decision-making process for similar situations should involve a structured, client-centric approach. This begins with active listening to understand the client's stated needs and underlying concerns. It then progresses to discovery and assessment, where the sales professional probes deeper to identify specific business challenges, current processes, and desired outcomes. Only after this thorough understanding should relevant IBM traditional workloads be introduced as potential solutions, with a clear explanation of how they address the identified inefficiencies and contribute to the client's strategic goals. This iterative process ensures that recommendations are informed, relevant, and ethically sound, fostering long-term client relationships and adhering to professional standards. Question 6. Benchmark analysis indicates that a financial services client is seeking to improve the efficiency of their core banking system operations, citing a need for process optimization to reduce operational costs and enhance regulatory reporting timeliness. They have expressed concerns about the complexity of their current mainframe environment. What is the most effective consultative approach to address this client's needs regarding IBM traditional workloads? Option A. Suggest a phased approach to upgrading their existing mainframe hardware to the latest generation, without a deep dive into specific process inefficiencies, assuming that newer hardware will inherently optimize operations. Option B. Present a comprehensive overview of all IBM traditional workload products, highlighting their advanced features and capabilities, and allow the client to select the solutions they believe are most relevant. Option C. Conduct a detailed assessment of the client's current mainframe processes, identifying specific bottlenecks and areas for improvement in batch processing, data management, and application performance. Then propose targeted IBM workload modernization or consolidation strategies that align with their cost reduction and regulatory reporting objectives. Option D. Recommend an immediate migration of their core banking system to a cloud-native platform, emphasizing the inherent scalability and agility of cloud solutions for process optimization. The correct answer is C. Conduct a detailed assessment of the client's current mainframe processes, identifying specific bottlenecks and areas for improvement in batch processing, data management, and application performance. Then propose targeted IBM workload modernization or consolidation strategies that align with their cost reduction and regulatory reporting objectives. Explanation. Scenario analysis. This scenario presents a common challenge in IT sales where a client expresses a desire for process optimization without a clear understanding of how to achieve it or the specific benefits they expect. The professional salesperson must navigate this ambiguity, ensuring that proposed solutions are not only technically sound, but also align with the client's business objectives and regulatory compliance. The challenge lies in translating a vague request into actionable, value-driven recommendations that leverage IBM's traditional workload capabilities. Correct approach analysis. The correct approach involves a consultative sales methodology. This means actively listening to the client, asking probing questions to uncover their specific pain points and desired outcomes related to process optimization, and then mapping those needs to relevant IBM solutions. This approach is best professional practice because it prioritizes understanding the client's business context and regulatory environment before proposing technology. For IBM traditional workloads, this often involves identifying inefficiencies in areas like batch processing, data management, or application performance that can be addressed through modernization, consolidation, or improved resource utilization. This aligns with ethical sales practices by ensuring the client receives a solution that genuinely addresses their needs, rather than pushing a product. It also implicitly considers regulatory compliance by seeking to understand how current processes meet or fail to meet industry-specific mandates, and how proposed optimizations can enhance that compliance. Incorrect approaches analysis. Proposing a generic upgrade without understanding the client's specific optimization goals is professionally unacceptable. This approach fails to demonstrate a commitment to understanding the client's unique challenges and may lead to a solution that doesn't deliver the desired business value or even introduces new complexities. It risks violating ethical principles by not acting in the client's best interest. Focusing solely on the technical features of IBM's traditional workload offerings without linking them to the client's stated need for process optimization is also professionally flawed. This demonstrates a product-centric rather than a client-centric mindset. It can lead to misaligned solutions and wasted resources, potentially causing the client to miss regulatory deadlines or incur penalties if the optimization is critical for compliance. Suggesting a complete overhaul of existing infrastructure without a thorough assessment of current processes and their impact on optimization goals is a significant professional misstep. This approach is often costly and disruptive, and without a clear understanding of the why behind the optimization, it can lead to a solution that is not only unnecessary, but also fails to address the root cause of any inefficiencies. This can be seen as an ethical failure due to the potential for significant financial and operational detriment to the client. Professional reasoning. Professionals should adopt a structured, client-centric approach. This begins with active listening and discovery to fully comprehend the client's business objectives, challenges, and regulatory landscape. Next, they should leverage their product knowledge to identify potential IBM solutions that directly address these identified needs. The process involves collaborative problem solving, where the salesperson acts as a trusted advisor, guiding the client towards informed decisions that deliver tangible business value and ensure compliance. This iterative process of understanding, proposing, and validating is crucial for building long-term client relationships and ensuring successful outcomes. Question 7. Stakeholder feedback indicates that the current manual processes for managing IBM traditional workloads are becoming a significant bottleneck, leading to delays and increased operational costs. To address this, what is the most prudent approach to optimizing these processes? Option A. Prioritize the development of custom scripts to automate individual tasks without a holistic review of the overall workflow or potential system impacts. Option B. Immediately deploy a cutting-edge automation platform across all traditional workload management functions to achieve rapid efficiency gains. Option C. Focus on replacing the existing traditional workloads with newer cloud-native solutions, assuming this will inherently resolve process bottlenecks. Option D. Conduct a detailed analysis of existing manual processes to identify specific inefficiencies and areas for automation, followed by a phased implementation of targeted solutions that integrate with current systems and adhere to data governance policies. The correct answer is D. Conduct a detailed analysis of existing manual processes to identify specific inefficiencies and areas for automation, followed by a phased implementation of targeted solutions that integrate with current systems and adhere to data governance policies. Explanation. This scenario presents a professional challenge because it requires balancing the immediate need for process improvement with the long-term implications of technology adoption and data governance, all within the context of IBM's traditional workloads. The core difficulty lies in identifying a solution that not only enhances efficiency, but also adheres to the principles of data integrity and security inherent in regulated environments, without introducing new risks or violating compliance mandates. Careful judgment is required to select an approach that is both effective and responsible. The correct approach represents best professional practice because it prioritizes a thorough understanding of the existing environment and potential impacts before implementing changes. This aligns with regulatory expectations for due diligence and risk assessment. By focusing on understanding current processes and identifying specific pain points, the chosen solution can be tailored to address actual inefficiencies rather than introducing speculative or potentially disruptive technologies. This methodical approach minimizes the risk of unintended consequences, such as data corruption, security breaches, or non-compliance with data handling regulations. It also ensures that any proposed optimization is aligned with business objectives and stakeholder needs, fostering trust and demonstrating a commitment to responsible innovation. An incorrect approach that focuses solely on implementing the latest automation technology without a comprehensive assessment of current processes and their interdependencies is professionally unacceptable. This could lead to the automation of inefficient or flawed processes, thereby perpetuating or even exacerbating existing problems. Furthermore, it risks introducing new vulnerabilities or compliance gaps if the technology is not properly integrated, or if it handles sensitive data in a manner inconsistent with regulatory requirements. Another incorrect approach that involves bypassing established change management and validation protocols to expedite implementation is also professionally unsound. This disregard for established procedures increases the likelihood of errors, system instability, and data integrity issues. It undermines the principles of controlled change and auditability, which are critical for regulatory compliance and maintaining a reliable IT infrastructure. Such an approach demonstrates a lack of professionalism and a failure to uphold the standards expected in managing critical business systems. The professional decision-making process for similar situations should involve a structured approach. First, clearly define the problem and desired outcomes based on stakeholder feedback. Second, conduct a comprehensive analysis of the current state, including processes, technologies, and data flows. Third, identify potential solutions, evaluating each for its technical feasibility, business impact, and compliance implications. Fourth, perform a risk assessment for each viable solution, considering potential regulatory, security, and operational risks. Fifth, develop a detailed implementation plan that includes testing, validation, and rollback strategies. Finally, ensure all stakeholders are informed and engaged throughout the process. Question 8. The control framework reveals that a client is expressing strong interest in implementing a specific IBM traditional workload solution, believing it will directly address their current operational inefficiencies. However, preliminary discussions suggest the client may not have fully analyzed their existing processes or considered the broader implications of integrating this solution into their current IT environment, which approach best aligns with professional responsibility and regulatory expectations for ensuring a successful and compliant implementation. Option A. Proceed with the implementation of the requested IBM traditional workload solution as the client has clearly stated their requirements, focusing on technical delivery and minimizing any further consultative engagement to expedite the sales cycle. Option B. Recommend a different, less complex IBM solution that is easier to implement, assuming the client's current processes are too entrenched to benefit from the initially requested advanced workload. Option C. Conduct a comprehensive assessment of the client's current business processes, identify the root causes of their inefficiencies, and then tailor the IBM traditional workload solution to address these specific, validated needs, ensuring alignment with their strategic objectives. Option D. Immediately present a detailed technical specification of the requested IBM traditional workload, highlighting its advanced features and capabilities to reinforce the client's initial decision and secure the sale. The correct answer is C. Conduct a comprehensive assessment of the client's current business processes, identify the root causes of their inefficiencies, and then tailor the IBM traditional workload solution to address these specific, validated needs, ensuring alignment with their strategic objectives. Explanation. This scenario presents a common challenge in IT sales where a client expresses interest in a solution that, while technically feasible, may not align with their current operational maturity or long-term strategic goals. The professional challenge lies in balancing the immediate desire for a new technology with the responsibility to ensure the client makes a sustainable and beneficial investment. This requires a deep understanding of the client's business context, not just the technical capabilities of the IBM traditional workloads. The correct approach represents best professional practice because it prioritizes a thorough understanding of the client's existing processes and future objectives before proposing a solution. This aligns with ethical sales principles and regulatory guidelines that emphasize providing value and avoiding misrepresentation. By focusing on process optimization, the sales professional acts as a trusted advisor, ensuring the proposed solution addresses root causes and contributes to the client's overall business success, rather than simply fulfilling a perceived immediate need. This proactive and consultative stance builds long-term client relationships and minimizes the risk of post-implementation dissatisfaction or non-compliance with internal governance. An incorrect approach that focuses solely on the technical features of the IBM traditional workloads, without understanding the client's current processes risks, misaligning the solution with the client's actual needs. This could lead to wasted resources, operational inefficiencies, and potential non-compliance with internal IT governance policies if the implemented solution creates more problems than it solves. Ethically, it borders on overselling or pushing a solution that may not be in the client's best interest. Another incorrect approach that prioritizes immediate sales closure over due diligence fails to uphold professional integrity. This can result in the client acquiring a solution that is difficult to integrate, maintain, or scale, leading to significant downstream costs and operational disruptions. Regulatory frameworks often implicitly or explicitly require sales professionals to act in the best interest of the client, which includes ensuring the proposed solution is a good fit. A third incorrect approach that assumes the client's self-diagnosis of their needs is accurate, without independent verification, can lead to the implementation of a solution that addresses symptoms rather than underlying issues. This is professionally unsound, as it bypasses the opportunity to provide expert guidance and could result in a suboptimal outcome for the client, potentially leading to compliance issues if the new system does not meet regulatory requirements due to poor foundational process integration. The professional reasoning process should involve actively listening to the client's stated needs, then probing deeper to understand the underlying business drivers and current operational challenges. This involves asking open-ended questions about their existing workflows, pain points, and strategic objectives. The next step is to map the proposed IBM traditional workload solution to these identified needs, demonstrating how it will optimize processes and deliver tangible business value. If the client's initial request appears misaligned, the professional should gently guide them towards a more appropriate solution by explaining the potential pitfalls of their initial idea and presenting a more robust alternative, backed by evidence and a clear understanding of their business context. Question 9. Compliance review shows that a potential client has expressed a general interest in improving their operational efficiency through modernization of their traditional workloads, but has not provided specific details on current bottlenecks or regulatory concerns. What is the most appropriate next step for the IBM sales professional? Option A. Immediately present a comprehensive overview of IBM's latest process optimization software suites, highlighting their advanced features for efficiency gains. Option B. Provide a generic proposal outlining potential cost savings through hardware consolidation, without delving into specific process improvements or regulatory implications. Option C. Recommend a broad migration to cloud-native solutions as the primary method for achieving process optimization, assuming this will inherently improve efficiency. Option D. Initiate a detailed discovery session to understand the client's current processes, business objectives, and any specific regulatory requirements impacting their operations before proposing any solutions. The correct answer is D. Initiate a detailed discovery session to understand the client's current processes, business objectives, and any specific regulatory requirements impacting their operations before proposing any solutions. Explanation. Scenario analysis. This scenario presents a common challenge in IT sales where a client expresses a desire for process optimization without a clear understanding of the underlying technical or business requirements. The sales professional must navigate this ambiguity, ensuring that proposed solutions are not only technically feasible, but also align with regulatory compliance and ethical sales practices. The challenge lies in translating a vague request into actionable, compliant, and beneficial outcomes for the client, avoiding misrepresentation or overselling. Correct approach analysis. The correct approach involves a thorough discovery process to understand the client's current operational inefficiencies, business objectives, and any existing regulatory constraints impacting their processes. This includes identifying specific pain points, desired outcomes, and the scope of optimization. By focusing on a phased implementation that prioritizes critical areas and allows for iterative feedback, the sales professional demonstrates a commitment to delivering tangible value and ensuring that the optimization efforts are sustainable and compliant with relevant IBM guidelines and any applicable industry regulations. This consultative approach builds trust and ensures that the solution addresses the client's actual needs rather than a perceived need. Incorrect approach is analysis. Proposing a broad, unvalidated suite of optimization tools without a deep understanding of the client's specific environment and regulatory landscape is a significant ethical and professional failure. This approach risks misrepresenting the capabilities of the solutions or suggesting implementations that could inadvertently lead to non-compliance with data handling, security, or operational regulations. It prioritizes a quick sale over client success and regulatory adherence. Suggesting a one-size-fits-all optimization strategy that ignores the client's unique operational context and regulatory obligations is also professionally unacceptable. This demonstrates a lack of due diligence and a failure to act in the client's best interest. It can lead to solutions that are ineffective, costly, or even detrimental to the client's compliance posture. Focusing solely on the technical features of IBM's traditional workloads without understanding how they integrate into the client's existing processes and regulatory framework is another failure. Process optimization is about improving workflows and outcomes, not just deploying technology. This approach neglects the critical business and compliance aspects, potentially leading to a solution that doesn't solve the client's real problems or creates new compliance risks. Professional reasoning. Professionals should adopt a consultative sales methodology. This involves active listening, asking probing questions to uncover underlying needs and constraints, and demonstrating expertise in how IBM solutions can address those specific challenges within a compliant framework. The process should always begin with understanding the client's current state, desired future state, and any regulatory or ethical considerations. Solutions should be tailored, and implementation should be phased with clear success metrics and opportunities for client feedback, ensuring alignment with both business goals and compliance requirements. Question 10. The monitoring system demonstrates a significant increase in processing latency for critical financial transaction data. The client's compliance officer has expressed concern that this latency may soon breach regulatory thresholds for data availability and audit trail timeliness. The IBM sales representative is tasked with proposing a solution leveraging IBM traditional workloads to optimize this process. Which of the following approaches best addresses the client's immediate compliance risk while ensuring a sustainable process optimization? Option A. Propose a solution that re-architects the data flow to parallelize processing, ensuring that even with increased latency, the overall throughput remains within acceptable audit trail parameters, and conduct a pilot to validate the new latency profile against the client's specific regulatory reporting requirements. Option B. Suggest implementing a temporary workaround by buffering transaction data externally and processing it in batches during off-peak hours, without thoroughly assessing the impact on real-time audit trail requirements or the long-term scalability of this approach. Option C. Focus on the cost savings of the proposed IBM solution, downplaying the latency issue and assuring the client that the current system's performance is adequate for their needs, as the regulatory thresholds are rarely enforced strictly. Option D. Recommend an immediate upgrade to the highest-tier IBM mainframe hardware, assuring the client that this will resolve all latency issues and guarantee compliance without further investigation into the root cause of the increased latency. The correct answer is A. Propose a solution that re-architects the data flow to parallelize processing, ensuring that even with increased latency, the overall throughput remains within acceptable audit trail parameters, and conduct a pilot to validate the new latency profile against the client's specific regulatory reporting requirements. Explanation. This scenario is professionally challenging because it requires balancing the immediate need for operational efficiency with the long-term implications of data integrity and compliance. The sales representative is under pressure to close a deal, but must ensure that the proposed solution aligns with the client's regulatory obligations and the capabilities of IBM's traditional workloads. Misrepresenting capabilities or overlooking compliance requirements can lead to significant financial penalties, reputational damage, and loss of client trust, all of which are critical considerations within the regulatory framework governing IT sales and service provision. The correct approach represents best professional practice because it prioritizes a thorough understanding of the client's specific operational processes and their existing regulatory environment. By focusing on process optimization through a detailed assessment of current workflows and identifying bottlenecks, the sales representative can propose a solution that not only enhances efficiency, but also demonstrably supports compliance. This aligns with ethical sales practices and regulatory guidelines that mandate accurate representation of product capabilities and a commitment to client success within legal and operational boundaries. It ensures that the proposed IBM solution is a genuine improvement, not just a superficial change. An incorrect approach that focuses solely on the perceived efficiency gains without validating them against the client's actual operational data or regulatory constraints is professionally unacceptable. This could lead to a solution that appears efficient on paper, but fails in practice, potentially violating data handling regulations or operational mandates. Another incorrect approach, which involves overpromising the capabilities of IBM's traditional workloads to meet immediate sales targets, constitutes a direct breach of ethical sales conduct and potentially misleads the client about their ability to achieve compliance, risking regulatory non-adherence. A third incorrect approach, which dismisses the client's concerns about process integration as minor, fails to acknowledge the critical role of seamless operation within a regulated environment, potentially leading to data silos or operational failures that have compliance implications. Professionals should employ a decision-making framework that begins with a comprehensive discovery phase, actively listening to the client's needs and challenges. This should be followed by a rigorous analysis of how proposed solutions map to those needs, with a strong emphasis on validating potential benefits against real-world operational data and established regulatory requirements. Transparency and honesty regarding product capabilities and limitations are paramount. When faced with conflicting priorities, such as sales targets versus client compliance, professionals must escalate concerns to ensure that the client's best interests and regulatory adherence are prioritized. Question 11. Assessment of how a sales professional should respond when a client, seeking to improve their batch processing times, insists on a specific hardware upgrade without allowing for an analysis of their current application code and database queries. Option A. Engage in a detailed discovery process to understand the underlying causes of slow batch processing, proposing IBM solutions that address those root causes, even if they differ from the client's initial hardware suggestion. Option B. Immediately recommend the specific hardware upgrade the client requested, prioritizing client satisfaction with their stated preference. Option C. Focus solely on the technical specifications of various hardware upgrades, assuming the client has already performed their own analysis. Option D. Politely decline to discuss solutions until the client agrees to a full system audit, potentially alienating them. The correct answer is A. Engage in a detailed discovery process to understand the underlying causes of slow batch processing, proposing IBM solutions that address those root causes, even if they differ from the client's initial hardware suggestion. Explanation. Scenario analysis. This scenario presents a common challenge in IT sales, where a client expresses a desire for a solution that may not align with their current infrastructure's optimal performance or long-term strategic goals. The challenge lies in balancing the client's immediate perceived needs with the vendor's understanding of best practices and the potential for future issues. A sales professional must navigate this by providing expert guidance without appearing dismissive or overly pushy, ensuring the client feels heard and understood while also steering them towards a more sustainable and efficient outcome. The risk is alienating the client by not meeting their stated request, or conversely, selling a solution that will lead to dissatisfaction and potential reputational damage. Correct approach analysis. The correct approach involves a consultative sales methodology focused on understanding the root cause of the client's perceived need for process optimization, instead of directly proposing a specific IBM solution for their stated problem. The professional should engage in discovery to identify the underlying inefficiencies. This might involve asking probing questions about current workflows, pain points, and desired business outcomes. By understanding the why behind the request, the sales professional can then recommend IBM solutions that address the core issues, which may or may not be the exact solution initially requested. This aligns with professional best practices by prioritizing the client's long-term success and demonstrating expertise. It also implicitly adheres to ethical sales principles by ensuring the proposed solution is genuinely beneficial and not merely a quick sale. In the context of IBM traditional workload sales, this means leveraging knowledge of how IBM technologies, like mainframe modernization, database optimization, or middleware enhancements, can truly improve operational efficiency and reduce costs, rather than just implementing a superficial fix. Incorrect approach is analysis. One incorrect approach is to immediately propose a specific IBM software or hardware upgrade that directly addresses the client's stated desire for faster batch processing, without further investigation. This fails to explore if the perceived need for speed is a symptom of a deeper issue, such as inefficient coding, suboptimal database queries, or inadequate resource allocation. Ethically, this could lead to the client purchasing a solution that doesn't solve their actual problem, resulting in wasted investment and dissatisfaction. Another incorrect approach is to dismiss the client's request outright, stating that their current system is already optimized. This is unprofessional and can damage the client relationship. It shows a lack of willingness to understand their perspective and can lead to the client seeking solutions elsewhere. It also ignores the possibility that even seemingly optimized systems can benefit from targeted improvements. A third incorrect approach is to focus solely on the technical specifications of a proposed solution without linking it back to the client's business objectives. While technical details are important, the client is ultimately looking for business value. Failing to articulate this value proposition and instead focusing on features can lead to a misaligned sale and a perception that the sales professional is not a strategic partner. This can also be seen as a failure to adhere to the spirit of consultative selling, which emphasizes business outcomes. Professional reasoning. Professionals should adopt a structured, client-centric approach. This begins with active listening and thorough discovery to understand the client's business challenges and goals. The next step is to analyze the gathered information to identify root causes and potential solutions. Then, present tailored recommendations that clearly articulate the business value and align with the client's strategic objectives. Finally, follow up to ensure the implemented solution meets expectations and continues to provide value. This process ensures that sales are driven by genuine client needs and lead to successful, long-term partnerships. Question 12. Comparative studies suggest that clients often approach technology vendors with preconceived notions about specific solutions based on market buzz or competitor offerings. In the context of IBM traditional workloads, sales V2, if a client expresses a strong desire for a particular IBM solution, citing its perceived competitive advantage in a specific niche, what is the most professional and ethically sound approach for the sales professional to take? Option A. Politely acknowledge the client's interest in the specific solution, but gently steer them towards a different, perhaps more established, IBM traditional workload that the sales professional is more familiar with, without fully exploring the client's initial rationale. Option B. Immediately confirm the client's request and proceed with a detailed proposal for the specified IBM solution, highlighting its competitive features as requested. Option C. Advise the client that their understanding of the competitive landscape might be outdated and suggest they conduct further independent research before proceeding with any IBM solution. Option D. Thoroughly investigate the client's underlying business problem, current infrastructure, and future objectives to determine if the requested solution truly aligns with their needs, and if alternative IBM traditional workloads might offer a more comprehensive or cost-effective benefit. The correct answer is D. Thoroughly investigate the client's underlying business problem, current infrastructure, and future objectives to determine if the requested solution truly aligns with their needs, and if alternative IBM traditional workloads might offer a more comprehensive or cost-effective benefit. Explanation. This scenario presents a common challenge in IT sales, where a client expresses interest in a solution that may not be the most optimal or cost-effective for their specific needs, driven by a perceived competitive advantage or a misunderstanding of the technology's capabilities. The professional challenge lies in balancing the sales objective with the ethical obligation to provide accurate and beneficial advice, ensuring the client makes an informed decision aligned with their business objectives and regulatory compliance. The IBM Traditional Workload Sales V2 exam emphasizes understanding client needs and proposing appropriate solutions within the IBM ecosystem, which includes considerations for performance, scalability, and total cost of ownership. The correct approach prioritizes understanding the client's underlying business problem and technical requirements before recommending a specific IBM solution. This involves active listening, asking probing questions about their current infrastructure, future growth plans, and any specific compliance or performance benchmarks they need to meet. By focusing on the client's actual needs, the sales professional can then tailor a recommendation that leverages the strengths of IBM traditional workloads, such as their reliability, security features, and integration capabilities, ensuring the proposed solution delivers tangible business value and adheres to any relevant industry regulations. This aligns with the ethical principle of putting the client's interests first and demonstrating expertise by offering solutions that are technically sound and strategically beneficial. An incorrect approach would be to immediately push a specific IBM product based on the client's initial, potentially misinformed, request without thorough due diligence. This could lead to a solution that is over-engineered, underperforming, or not aligned with the client's long-term goals, potentially resulting in wasted investment and dissatisfaction. Furthermore, failing to explore the client's actual requirements and instead focusing solely on a preconceived solution could inadvertently lead to a misrepresentation of capabilities, which is an ethical and potentially regulatory failure. Another incorrect approach would be to dismiss the client's stated interest without understanding the rationale behind it, which could alienate the client and miss an opportunity to educate them on more suitable alternatives. The professional reasoning process should involve a structured discovery phase to fully understand the client's situation, followed by a needs assessment. Based on this assessment, the sales professional should then present a range of relevant IBM solutions, clearly articulating the benefits and drawbacks of each in relation to the client's specific requirements. Transparency about pricing, implementation timelines, and ongoing support is crucial. The decision-making framework should always prioritize client success and long-term partnership over a short-term sale, ensuring that recommendations are both commercially viable for IBM and demonstrably valuable for the client. Question 13. Process analysis reveals that a large financial institution is evaluating a significant upgrade to its core banking infrastructure. The sales representative's primary objective is to secure a long-term contract for IBM's traditional workload solutions. Given the client's stated need for immediate cost reduction and improved operational efficiency, which approach best balances these immediate demands with the strategic imperative of future-proofing their IT environment and adhering to stringent financial regulations? Option A. Present a highly technical overview of IBM's latest hardware and software capabilities, highlighting advanced features and functionalities that could theoretically improve performance, without deeply exploring the client's specific business processes or regulatory compliance challenges. Option B. Focus on a phased implementation strategy, starting with critical areas that offer the quickest return on investment and demonstrable efficiency gains, while clearly outlining a roadmap for subsequent modernization phases that align with the client's evolving business and regulatory requirements. Option C. Propose a comprehensive, all-encompassing modernization solution that addresses all potential future needs, emphasizing the long-term benefits and economies of scale, even if it requires a higher initial investment and a longer implementation timeline. Option D. Prioritize the solution with the lowest upfront licensing and implementation costs, assuming that the client's primary driver is immediate budget savings and that future needs can be addressed through subsequent, smaller projects. The correct answer is C. Propose a comprehensive, all-encompassing modernization solution that addresses all potential future needs, emphasizing the long-term benefits and economies of scale, even if it requires a higher initial investment and a longer implementation timeline. Explanation. Scenario analysis. This scenario presents a common challenge in enterprise sales where a client, a large financial institution, is considering a significant investment in modernizing their core banking systems. The challenge lies in balancing the client's immediate need for cost savings and operational efficiency with the long-term strategic implications of adopting new technologies. The sales representative must navigate complex stakeholder interests, including IT, finance, and business unit leaders, each with potentially conflicting priorities. The regulatory environment for financial institutions is particularly stringent, demanding a thorough understanding of compliance requirements and risk management. Misjudging the client's true needs or overpromising capabilities can lead to significant financial and reputational damage for both the client and the vendor, and potentially violate regulatory mandates. Correct approach analysis. The correct approach involves a comprehensive discovery process that prioritizes understanding the client's business objectives, current pain points, and future strategic direction. This includes engaging with a diverse range of stakeholders to gather a holistic view of their requirements and constraints. By focusing on a phased implementation that demonstrates tangible value early on, while also outlining a clear roadmap for full modernization, the sales representative builds trust and mitigates risk. This approach aligns with best practices in consultative selling and demonstrates a commitment to the client's long-term success. It also implicitly addresses regulatory concerns by ensuring that any proposed solution is aligned with the client's compliance obligations and risk appetite, which is paramount in the financial services industry. The emphasis on a clear ROI and a phased approach helps the client justify the investment to their own stakeholders and regulators. Incorrect approach is analysis. One incorrect approach is to aggressively push a single, comprehensive solution without adequate discovery. This fails to address the nuanced needs of different departments and can lead to a solution that is either over-engineered or fails to meet critical requirements, potentially causing operational disruptions and non-compliance with financial regulations. Another incorrect approach is to focus solely on the lowest upfront cost, neglecting the total cost of ownership, scalability, and long-term support. This can result in hidden costs, performance issues, and an inability to adapt to future market demands or regulatory changes, which is a significant risk for financial institutions. A third incorrect approach is to make broad, unsubstantiated claims about the technology's capabilities without providing concrete evidence or proof points. This erodes trust and can lead to a misaligned expectation, potentially resulting in the client making a decision that is not in their best interest from a business or regulatory perspective. Professional reasoning. Professionals should adopt a client-centric, consultative approach. This involves active listening, thorough questioning, and a deep understanding of the client's industry and regulatory landscape. The decision-making process should be iterative, involving continuous feedback from the client and a willingness to adapt the proposed solution. Prioritizing transparency, demonstrating value, and building long-term partnerships are key to successful outcomes, especially in regulated industries. A structured discovery phase, followed by a tailored proposal and a clear implementation plan, ensures that the solution meets both business and compliance requirements. Question 14. To address the challenge of a client requesting a specific hardware upgrade for their existing mainframe environment, which approach best aligns with professional sales practices and the principles of delivering strategic value within the IBM traditional workload sales V2 framework. Option A. Immediately confirm the order for the requested hardware upgrade, as the client has clearly stated their requirement. Option B. Conduct a thorough discovery session to understand the client's business objectives, current operational challenges, and desired future state, then propose an IBM solution that addresses these underlying needs, which may or may not be the initially requested upgrade. Option C. Focus on the technical specifications and pricing of the requested hardware upgrade, assuming the client has already performed their own due diligence. Option D. Present a proposal for the latest, most advanced IBM technology available, regardless of its direct relevance to the client's stated need, to showcase innovation. The correct answer is B. Conduct a thorough discovery session to understand the client's business objectives, current operational challenges, and desired future state. Then propose an IBM solution that addresses these underlying needs, which may or may not be the initially requested upgrade. Explanation. Scenario analysis. This scenario presents a professional challenge because it requires balancing the client's immediate perceived needs with the long-term strategic benefits of a proposed solution, all while operating within the specific regulatory framework of IBM traditional workload sales V2. The challenge lies in discerning genuine business requirements from potential misinterpretations or incomplete understandings of how IBM's offerings can truly address underlying issues. A sales professional must navigate this by deeply understanding the client's business and aligning IBM's capabilities with those strategic objectives, rather than simply fulfilling a stated, potentially superficial, request. This requires careful judgment to avoid overpromising or misrepresenting capabilities, which could lead to client dissatisfaction and regulatory noncompliance. Correct approach analysis. The correct approach involves a consultative sales methodology focused on understanding the client's business objectives and challenges. This aligns with best professional practice by prioritizing the client's success and fostering a long-term partnership. By asking probing questions about business outcomes, operational efficiencies, and strategic goals, the sales professional can uncover the root causes of the client's stated need. This allows for the recommendation of a solution that not only addresses the immediate request, but also provides greater strategic value and ROI. This approach is ethically sound as it promotes transparency and ensures the client receives a solution that genuinely benefits their organization, avoiding misrepresentation or the sale of unnecessary components. It also implicitly adheres to sales guidelines that emphasize customer centricity and value delivery. Incorrect approach is analysis. One incorrect approach is to immediately propose a solution that directly matches the client's stated request without further investigation. This fails to address the potential underlying issues and may lead to a suboptimal solution that doesn't deliver the expected business value. Ethically, this can be seen as a failure to act in the client's best interest, potentially leading to wasted resources and dissatisfaction. It also risks misrepresenting the true capabilities of the proposed solution if it doesn't fully meet the unarticulated needs. Another incorrect approach is to focus solely on the technical specifications of the requested component without understanding its business context. This can result in a technically sound but strategically irrelevant solution. This approach is professionally deficient because it neglects the core purpose of sales to solve business problems and drive value. It can also lead to regulatory issues if the sales process is perceived as purely transactional and lacking in due diligence regarding the client's actual business needs and the suitability of the proposed technology. A third incorrect approach involves pushing a new, unproven technology that may not be a good fit for the client's traditional workloads, simply because it is a new offering. This disregards the client's existing environment and risk tolerance. This is professionally unsound, as it prioritizes the sales of new products over client stability and success. It can also lead to regulatory scrutiny if the sales process involves misrepresenting the maturity or suitability of the technology for the client's specific use case. Professional reasoning. Professionals should employ a structured, consultative sales process. This begins with active listening and deep questioning to understand the client's business objectives, pain points, and desired outcomes. The next step is to map these insights to IBM's portfolio, identifying solutions that offer the most strategic value. This involves assessing the client's current environment, risk appetite, and long-term vision. Finally, the professional should present a tailored solution, clearly articulating the business benefits and ROI, and ensuring transparency about capabilities and limitations. This framework ensures that sales efforts are aligned with client success and adhere to ethical and regulatory standards by prioritizing informed decision-making and value delivery. Question 15. The performance metrics show a significant slowdown in batch processing for a key financial application, impacting end-of-day reporting. The client is eager for a rapid solution to restore operational efficiency. While a quick fix might address the immediate performance issue, it could overlook the critical need for robust audit trails and historical data retention required by financial regulations. Which approach best balances the client's immediate need with long-term compliance and operational integrity for this IBM traditional workload scenario? Option A. Propose an immediate, streamlined solution focused solely on improving batch processing speed, deferring discussions on audit trail enhancements to a later phase. Option B. Suggest a workaround that bypasses some data logging functions to achieve faster processing, with a promise to re-enable them once the immediate crisis is resolved. Option C. Recommend a comprehensive solution that addresses the performance bottleneck, while also ensuring full integration with existing audit logging mechanisms and historical data archiving capabilities, even if it requires a slightly longer implementation timeline. Option D. Focus on the performance metrics alone and present a solution that demonstrably improves speed, leaving the client to determine their own compliance needs post-implementation. Correct answer is A. Propose an immediate, streamlined solution focused solely on improving batch processing speed, deferring discussions on audit trail enhancements to a later phase. Explanation. This scenario presents a common challenge in IT sales, where a client's perceived immediate needs might not align with a solution that offers the most robust long-term benefits and compliance. The professional challenge lies in balancing the client's desire for a quick fix with the responsibility to guide them towards a solution that meets current and future regulatory requirements, especially concerning data integrity and auditability, which are critical in regulated industries. The sales professional must navigate potential pressure for a less comprehensive, but faster, implementation. The correct approach represents best professional practice because it prioritizes a thorough understanding of the client's operational and regulatory landscape before proposing a solution. This aligns with ethical sales principles and the spirit of regulatory frameworks that emphasize due diligence and risk mitigation. By focusing on a comprehensive assessment, the sales professional ensures that the proposed IBM traditional workload solution not only addresses the immediate performance metrics, but also integrates seamlessly with existing compliance controls and future audit trails. This proactive stance builds trust and positions the vendor as a strategic partner, not just a product supplier, which is crucial for long-term client relationships. And adherence to the C1000-016 IBM traditional workloads. Sales V2 exams implied focus on value-driven solutions, an incorrect approach that focuses solely on the immediate performance metrics, without considering the underlying data integrity and auditability requirements, would be professionally unacceptable. This failure could lead to a solution that, while appearing to meet the stated performance goals, creates significant compliance risks for the client. Such a failure would violate the implicit ethical obligation to provide solutions that are not only functional but also compliant and secure, potentially exposing the client to regulatory penalties and reputational damage. Another incorrect approach that involves downplaying the importance of audit trails and historical data retention in favor of a simpler, less feature-rich implementation is also professionally unsound. This disregards the fundamental principles of data governance and regulatory compliance, which often mandate comprehensive logging and retention capabilities for accountability and dispute resolution. Failing to highlight these aspects is a dereliction of the sales professional's duty to inform and educate the client about the full implications of their choices. The professional reasoning process should involve a structured approach. First, deeply understand the client's business objectives and regulatory obligations. Second, map these requirements to the capabilities of the proposed IBM traditional workload solution, emphasizing features that support compliance and long-term data integrity. Third, clearly articulate the benefits and risks associated with different implementation paths, ensuring the client makes an informed decision. And finally, document all discussions and agreements to maintain transparency and accountability. Question 16. The evaluation methodology shows that a successful sales engagement for IBM traditional workloads hinges on effectively understanding and addressing the diverse needs of various client stakeholders. During a sales cycle for a modernization project involving a critical mainframe workload, the sales professional identifies the CIO as the primary budget holder and the head of application development as the key technical decision maker. However, the director of IT operations, who manages the day-to-day performance and stability of the existing infrastructure, expresses significant concerns about the potential disruption and increased operational complexity of the proposed modernization. Which approach best demonstrates professional judgment and adherence to best practices in this scenario? Option A. Engage proactively with the director of IT operations to thoroughly understand their specific concerns regarding disruption and operational complexity, and collaboratively explore mitigation strategies and phased implementation plans that address their requirements alongside the project's strategic goals. Option B. Focus exclusively on demonstrating the ROI and strategic benefits of the modernization to the CIO and the technical advantages to the head of application development, while downplaying the operational concerns raised by the director of IT operations to avoid derailing the conversation. Option C. Prioritize securing the CIO's approval based on the financial benefits and the head of application development's technical endorsement, and then address the director of IT operations concerns with a generic post-sale support plan. Option D. Assume the director of IT operations concerns are primarily driven by resistance to change and focus on convincing them that the modernization is inevitable, emphasizing the long-term cost savings that will eventually alleviate their operational burdens. Correct answer is B. Focus exclusively on demonstrating the ROI and strategic benefits of the modernization to the CIO and the technical advantages to the head of application development, while downplaying the operational concerns raised by the director of IT operations to avoid derailing the conversation. Explanation. The evaluation methodology shows that understanding stakeholder perspectives is crucial for successful sales engagements, especially within the context of IBM traditional workloads. This scenario is professionally challenging because it requires the sales professional to navigate potentially conflicting interests and priorities among different stakeholders, each with their own objectives and perceptions of value. A careful judgment is required to identify the true decision makers, influencers, and blockers, and to tailor the sales approach accordingly. Correct approach represents best professional practice because it prioritizes a comprehensive understanding of the client's business and the specific needs of each key stakeholder. By actively listening, asking probing questions, and demonstrating empathy, the sales professional builds trust and credibility. This approach aligns with ethical sales practices by focusing on delivering genuine value and solutions that address the client's challenges, rather than pushing a product. It also implicitly adheres to any relevant regulatory frameworks that emphasize fair dealing and customer centricity, ensuring that the proposed solution is a good fit and not merely a transaction. An incorrect approach that focuses solely on the technical merits of the workload without understanding the business impact or the concerns of non-technical stakeholders is professionally unacceptable. This could lead to a solution that is technically sound, but fails to address the underlying business drivers or gain buy-in from key individuals, ultimately resulting in a failed sale or dissatisfaction. Ethically, it represents a failure to act in the client's best interest. Another incorrect approach that prioritizes closing the deal quickly over understanding the client's long-term needs is also professionally unacceptable. This can lead to misaligned solutions, customer churn, and damage to the sales professional's reputation and the company's brand. It may also violate regulations that protect consumers from deceptive sales practices. Finally, an approach that ignores the concerns of a key stakeholder, such as the IT operations team, because they are not the primary budget holder, is professionally flawed. This stakeholder often has critical insights into the practical implications of a solution and can become a significant roadblock if their concerns are not addressed. Ignoring them is a failure of due diligence and can jeopardize the entire engagement. The professional reasoning process should involve a structured approach to stakeholder analysis. This includes identifying all relevant stakeholders, mapping their influence and interest, understanding their individual pain points and desired outcomes, and developing a communication strategy tailored to each. The sales professional must then integrate this understanding into their solution proposal and ongoing engagement, ensuring that all critical perspectives are considered and addressed. Question 17. Quality control measures reveal that a long-standing client, who is currently undergoing a significant IT infrastructure upgrade, has requested a meeting with their IBM account manager. During this meeting, the client expresses frustration with the competitive bidding process and asks if the account manager can personally ensure their proposal receives preferential consideration and a special discount not available to other bidders. Citing their loyalty, the account manager is aware that IBM has standard procurement processes and ethical guidelines that govern pricing and proposal evaluation. Option A. Politely explain that while IBM values the client's loyalty, all proposals are evaluated based on established criteria and pricing is determined through standard channels, offering to review the proposal against current available programs and discounts. Option B. Agree to provide a significant, unadvertised discount and instruct the client on how to submit their proposal to bypass standard review procedures, assuring them of a favorable outcome. Option C. Offer to arrange a private meeting with the client's procurement team to discuss the proposal's merits without involving IBM's legal or compliance departments to ensure their specific needs are met. Option D. Suggests that the account manager will personally advocate for the client's proposal to the IBM sales leadership, bypassing the formal evaluation process to expedite a decision. The correct answer is A. Politely explain that while IBM values the client's loyalty, all proposals are evaluated based on established criteria and pricing is determined through standard channels, offering to review the proposal against current available programs and discounts. Explanation. Scenario analysis. This scenario presents a professional challenge where a sales representative must navigate a complex client request that touches upon the ethical boundaries of influencing procurement decisions. The challenge lies in balancing the client's desire for preferential treatment with the need to adhere to IBM's ethical sales practices and any relevant regulatory guidelines concerning fair competition and anti-bribery. The sales representative must exercise sound judgment to avoid actions that could be perceived as unethical or illegal, thereby protecting both the client and IBM from potential repercussions. Correct approach analysis. The correct approach involves clearly and professionally communicating IBM's standard procurement processes and ethical guidelines to the client. This demonstrates transparency and reinforces IBM's commitment to fair business practices. By explaining that IBM cannot offer preferential treatment outside of established channels, The sales representative upholds ethical standards and avoids any appearance of impropriety. This aligns with the principles of integrity and fair dealing expected in business relationships and is consistent with regulatory frameworks that prohibit undue influence or preferential treatment in procurement. Incorrect approaches analysis, offering a special discount that is not part of a publicly available or standard IBM program, even if framed as a gesture of goodwill, could be interpreted as an attempt to improperly influence the client's decision. This could violate ethical guidelines against offering inducements and potentially contravene regulations related to anti-bribery and fair competition, depending on the jurisdiction's specific laws. Suggesting that the sales representative will personally ensure the client's proposal is fast-tracked or receives special consideration without reference to established procedures implies a bypass of normal processes. This creates an appearance of favoritism and could be seen as an attempt to gain an unfair advantage, potentially leading to accusations of corruption or unethical influence. Agreeing to meet with the client's procurement team outside of official channels to discuss the proposal in detail, without the presence of IBM's legal or compliance representatives, could expose IBM to risks. Such meetings might be used to solicit information or make commitments that are not in line with IBM's policies or regulatory obligations, creating a situation ripe for ethical breaches. Professional reasoning. Professionals should approach such situations by prioritizing transparency, adherence to established policies, and ethical conduct. The decision-making process should involve 1. Understanding the client's request and its potential implications. 2. Consulting internal policies and relevant regulatory guidelines. 3. Communicating clearly and professionally with the client, explaining limitations and offering legitimate solutions. 4. Escalating complex or ambiguous situations to internal legal or compliance departments for guidance. The goal is to build trust through ethical practices and avoid any actions that could compromise integrity or lead to regulatory scrutiny. Question 18. Consider a scenario where a sales representative is tasked with selling IBM traditional workloads to a new client. The client has expressed a general need for improved data processing capabilities, but has not provided specific details about their current infrastructure, performance bottlenecks, or future scalability requirements. The sales representative is aware that a competitor is also bidding for this business and feels pressure to secure the deal quickly. Which of the following approaches best aligns with professional sales ethics and regulatory expectations for this situation? Option A. Focus the sales pitch primarily on the competitive pricing of IBM traditional workloads, highlighting cost savings as the main benefit to secure the deal quickly. Option B. Suggest a trial period of a generic IBM traditional workload solution without a detailed assessment, assuming it will meet the client's needs and allow them to evaluate its performance. Option C. Conduct a comprehensive discovery session with the client to understand their specific business challenges, current technical environment, performance metrics, and future growth plans before recommending any specific IBM traditional workload solutions. Option D. Immediately present the most advanced and feature-rich IBM traditional workload options, emphasizing their superior performance capabilities to impress the client and differentiate from competitors. The correct answer is C. Conduct a comprehensive discovery session with the client to understand their specific business challenges, current technical environment, performance metrics, and future growth plans before recommending any specific IBM traditional workload solutions. Explanation. This scenario presents a professional challenge because the sales representative is under pressure to close a deal, potentially leading to a temptation to overpromise or misrepresent the capabilities of IBM traditional workloads. The core of the challenge lies in balancing the client's immediate needs with the long-term viability and actual performance of the proposed solution, all while adhering to ethical sales practices and regulatory guidelines. Careful judgment is required to ensure that the client receives accurate information and a solution that genuinely meets their requirements, rather than a quick sale that could lead to client dissatisfaction and potential compliance issues. The correct approach represents best professional practice because it prioritizes understanding the client's specific business challenges and technical environment before proposing a solution. This aligns with ethical sales principles that emphasize customer centricity and providing value. By thoroughly assessing the client's current infrastructure, performance metrics, and future growth plans, the sales representative can accurately determine if IBM traditional workloads are the most suitable option. This proactive due diligence ensures that the proposed solution is a good fit, minimizing the risk of misrepresentation and fostering a trusting, long-term client relationship. This approach also implicitly adheres to any relevant regulations that mandate fair and honest dealing in commercial transactions, preventing deceptive practices. An incorrect approach that involves immediately highlighting the most advanced features of IBM traditional workloads without understanding the client's current capabilities or needs is professionally unacceptable. This could lead to a misaligned solution, where the client invests in technology they cannot effectively utilize or that doesn't address their core problems. This failure to conduct proper discovery constitutes a breach of ethical sales conduct, as it prioritizes the sale over the client's best interests. Furthermore, if the advanced features are presented as a guaranteed solution without proper qualification or assessment of the client's readiness, it could be construed as a deceptive sales practice, potentially violating consumer protection laws or industry-specific regulations that prohibit misleading advertising or sales tactics. Another incorrect approach, focusing solely on price competitiveness without a thorough understanding of the client's performance requirements, is also professionally flawed. A cost is a significant factor. A solution that is cheap but does not meet performance benchmarks will ultimately be more expensive due to inefficiencies, downtime, or the need for further investment. This approach neglects the fundamental responsibility of a sales professional to provide a solution that delivers tangible business value. Ethically, it is a disservice to the client, and from a regulatory standpoint, it could be seen as a failure to act in good faith if the price advantage is achieved by offering a substandard or inappropriate solution. The professional reasoning process for similar situations should involve a structured approach. 1. Discovery and needs assessment. Begin by actively listening to the client and asking probing questions to understand their business objectives, current challenges, technical environment, and performance expectations. 2. Solution alignment. Based on the gathered information, determine if IBM traditional workloads are a suitable fit. If not, be prepared to suggest alternative solutions or acknowledge limitations. 3. Accurate representation. Clearly and honestly communicate the capabilities, limitations, and implementation requirements of the proposed solution. Avoid hyperbole or making unsubstantiated claims. 4. Value proposition. Articulate how the proposed solution will address the client's specific needs and deliver measurable business value, considering both performance and cost. 5. Documentation and follow-up. Ensure all discussions and commitments are documented and follow up to confirm client satisfaction and address any emerging issues. Question 19. The investigation demonstrates that a sales representative, eager to close a substantial deal for IBM traditional workloads, is tempted to highlight potential future product enhancements and downplay integration complexities to a prospective client. Which approach best aligns with ethical sales practices and regulatory compliance in this scenario? Option A. Focus heavily on the aspirational aspects of the product roadmap and marketing materials, emphasizing potential future benefits as if they are immediate realities, and briefly mention that some integration challenges might exist but are easily overcome. Option B. Conduct a detailed discovery to understand the client's specific requirements and current infrastructure, and then accurately present the IBM traditional workload's current capabilities, including any known limitations or integration considerations, while also discussing the relevant roadmap items as future possibilities. Option C. Provide a high-level overview of the product's general features and benefits, relying primarily on generic marketing collateral without delving into the specifics of the client's environment or potential integration hurdles. Option D. Emphasize the immediate cost savings and efficiency gains that the client will experience without thoroughly investigating the client's existing systems or discussing any potential technical challenges that might arise during implementation. The correct answer is B. Conduct a detailed discovery to understand the client's specific requirements and current infrastructure, and then accurately present the IBM traditional workload's current capabilities, including any known limitations or integration considerations, while also discussing the relevant roadmap items as future possibilities. Explanation. Scenario analysis. This scenario presents a professional challenge where a sales representative, focused on closing a deal for IBM traditional workloads, encounters a situation that could lead to misrepresentation of product capabilities. The pressure to meet sales targets and the desire to secure a significant contract can create a conflict of interest, potentially tempting the representative to overstate the immediate benefits or downplay limitations of the solution without full understanding or verification. This requires careful judgment to ensure that client needs are genuinely met and that all information provided is accurate and compliant with IBM sales policies and relevant regulations. Correct approach analysis. The correct approach involves a thorough needs assessment and a commitment to providing accurate, verifiable information about the IBM traditional workloads. This aligns with ethical sales practices and regulatory compliance by ensuring that the client makes an informed decision based on a realistic understanding of the solution's capabilities and limitations. It prioritizes building long-term trust and a sustainable client relationship over a short-term gain, which is a hallmark of best professional practice in sales. This approach avoids any form of misrepresentation, which could have legal and reputational consequences. Incorrect approaches analysis. One incorrect approach involves emphasizing potential future enhancements or roadmap items as if they are current features. This is a regulatory and ethical failure because it misrepresents the current state of the product, potentially leading the client to make purchasing decisions based on false premises. Violates principles of honesty and transparency. Another incorrect approach is to gloss over or minimize known limitations or integration challenges with existing client systems. This is a failure because it omits critical information that the client needs to assess the true feasibility and cost of implementing the solution. It can lead to project failures, increased costs, and damage to the client's business, constituting a breach of professional duty and potentially violating consumer protection regulations. A third incorrect approach is to rely solely on marketing collateral without validating the specific applicability of the claims to the client's unique environment. While marketing collateral provides general information, it may not account for specific technical constraints or operational nuances of a particular client. Failing to conduct this validation can lead to overselling and ultimately, client dissatisfaction and potential contractual disputes. Professional reasoning. Professionals should employ a decision-making framework that prioritizes understanding the client's true needs, verifying product capabilities against those needs, and communicating transparently about both benefits and limitations. This framework involves active listening, thorough research, seeking expert consultation when necessary, and a commitment to ethical conduct over immediate sales pressure. It requires a proactive approach to identifying and addressing potential risks, and ensuring that all representations are accurate and supportable. Question 20. Upon reviewing a client's request for a specific IBM traditional workload solution that appears to be more complex and costly than their stated business objectives seem to require, what is the most professional and ethically sound course of action for the sales representative? Option A. Immediately recommend a simpler, less expensive IBM traditional workload solution that appears to better match the stated objectives, without further discussion of the client's initial request. Option B. Proceed with the requested solution, assuming the client has a valid, unstated reason for their specific choice. Option C. Engage in a consultative dialogue with the client to understand the underlying business problem and explore if the requested solution is indeed the most appropriate, or if alternative IBM traditional workload solutions might offer better value or fit. Option D. Politely decline the client's request, stating that the requested solution is not suitable for their stated needs and suggest they seek further internal consultation. The correct answer is B. Proceed with the requested solution, assuming the client has a valid, unstated reason for their specific choice. Explanation. Scenario analysis. This scenario presents a common challenge in sales where a client expresses interest in a solution that may not be the most optimal or cost-effective for their stated business needs. The challenge lies in balancing the immediate desire to close a deal with the professional responsibility to ensure the client receives genuine value and a solution that aligns with their long-term objectives. Misrepresenting the capabilities or benefits of a product, even implicitly, can lead to client dissatisfaction, reputational damage, and potential regulatory scrutiny if it constitutes misleading conduct. The salesperson must navigate this by understanding the client's underlying requirements rather than just their stated preferences. Correct approach analysis. The correct approach involves actively listening to the client's stated needs and then probing deeper to understand the underlying business problem or objective they are trying to solve. This requires asking clarifying questions about their current processes, desired outcomes, and any constraints they might be facing. By doing so, the salesperson can identify if the requested solution truly addresses the core issue or if an alternative, perhaps more suitable, IBM traditional workload solution exists. This consultative selling approach, focused on problem solving and value creation, aligns with ethical sales practices and regulatory expectations that prohibit misrepresentation and require fair dealing. It builds trust and positions the salesperson as a trusted advisor, which is crucial for long-term client relationships and adherence to principles of good business conduct. Incorrect approach is analysis. One incorrect approach is to immediately agree to the client's request without further investigation. This fails to uphold the professional duty of care to the client. It risks selling a solution that is either over-engineered, underperforming, or simply not the best fit, leading to wasted resources for the client and potential dissatisfaction. This could be construed as a failure to act in the client's best interest and could violate principles of fair trading if the salesperson knows or should know that a better alternative exists. Another incorrect approach is to dismiss the client's request outright without understanding their rationale. This can alienate the client and damage the relationship. While the salesperson might be correct that a different solution is better, a confrontational or dismissive attitude is unprofessional and counterproductive. It misses an opportunity to educate the client and guide them towards a more appropriate solution, potentially leading to a lost opportunity for both the client and the vendor. This approach lacks the necessary due diligence and client centricity expected in professional sales engagements. Professional reasoning. Professionals should employ a structured decision-making framework that prioritizes understanding the client's true needs. This involves 1. Active listening and needs assessment. Go beyond surface-level requests to uncover the root business problem. 2. Solution alignment. Evaluate how proposed solutions, including the client's initial request, map to identified needs and objectives. 3. Value proposition articulation. Clearly explain the benefits and drawbacks of different options in relation to the client's specific situation. 4. Transparency and honesty. Be upfront about limitations and potential alternatives, even if they are not the immediate sale. 5. Client advocacy. Act as a trusted advisor, recommending the best course of action for the client's success, even if it means a different solution or a delayed sale. This framework ensures that decisions are not solely driven by immediate sales targets, but by a commitment to delivering genuine value and fostering sustainable client relationships, thereby adhering to ethical and professional standards.